Good afternoon and welcome to our What's Buzzin' at Georgia Tech webinar series. We are here today with Dean Stein, very special guest, kind of talk about some things that are going on throughout the semester, where your student is right now mentally, where their headspace is, and just kind of some things that are going on campus, how we can best support them. We will also be having another very special guest join us shortly. If you have any questions for Dean Stein, please feel free to utilize the Q&A chat box. He would love to hear from you. We will definitely get to those questions after our presentation. Once again, if you have any questions for Dean Stein, please feel free to utilize our Q&A. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce Dean Stein.
Good afternoon and greetings from Georgia Tech and from the flag building here. We're excited to have our students back on campus after a short break, and we hope that they took the time to rest up and get some relief and relaxation as we move into the final weeks of the semester. Today, what I wanted to do was that I figured this semester what I would like to do is to invite someone from the division who can come and talk about an initiative or a program that may not be readily as known to you, but is also one that's benefiting our students. So I've invited one of our therapists from the Counseling Center to join me to talk about a peer coaching program that we have in place here at Georgia Tech. And then we also have staff from different departments, from the registrar's office and from dining services, to answer any questions regarding those areas or other areas. So we'll get to all of that, but I do want to start by just kind of reviewing some basic stuff as to the calendar and what's happening, just so everybody's clear. So on October 4th, progress report grades were due. That's for 1,000 and 2,000 level classes. So if your student is a first or second year student, typically those courses would fall within those first 2 years. Students have access to those reports. Those grades are either an S for satisfactory or a U for unsatisfactory. It is a first reading in terms of your progress in the class. Okay? Now, I'm teaching a freshman seminar this semester, and last week I went into class and I said, how many of you have checked your progress report grades? And nobody had checked it. So we did that in class. We walked them through how to check their progress report grades. And I'm glad that I did that because a lot of questions came out of that little exercise. One is, if I have a U, should I be withdrawing from this class? And the answer to that is not necessarily. That U may be based on one test, one assignment, and you still have the second half of the term to have other grades and stuff. So it doesn't necessarily translate to the fact that you should be withdrawing. Okay, but it does mean that there's some pause there, that you should be talking to your faculty member and trying to figure out why you ended up. Where was the cutoff in terms of the S versus U? So I would ask that you check with your student and make sure that they have checked their progress report grades, again, for 1,000, 2,000 level, just to have a sense of that. We are coming up on a very, very important deadline. October 30th is the last day to withdraw from single classes or from the semester. Okay, this is an important deadline because once the 30th goes beyond that point, you then are stuck in the class and you cannot withdraw without a special petition to withdraw. So over the next few weeks, students should be assessing their progress in their classes and really work with their academic advisor, work with their instructor to determine if there is a possibility of passing a class or earning the grade that they hope to earn. Withdrawals are not bad in and of themselves, but students need to be careful. There are financial aid implications to withdrawing from a class, International students have to maintain a full-time status. There potentially are scholarship implications to a withdrawing from classes. So they need to have a discussion with the financial aid office if they are on financial aid. They need to look at the scholarship that they're receiving and see what it says about withdrawing from classes and stuff. So it has to be an informed decision, both academically and financially and otherwise. But in and of itself, a withdrawal is not a bad thing. It's many times it's a strategic thing. So just again, if they are thinking about withdrawing, just direct them to the right places. I know the undergraduate education office will be conducting a workshop on should I withdraw or not. I believe that's coming up next week, and they can go to that website and see when that workshop's being offered. But that would be a great workshop. I think it's going to be virtual, that they can listen in and get the information they need and have their questions answered. The grade substitution deadline is also on the 30th. And again, they should be talking to their academic advisors. There's a form that needs to be completed for that. But it's best to kind of process that through with their academic advising. Okay. November 8th begins phase 1 of registration. That goes through right till the end until December 17th. It's done with time tickets, depending on how many credits earned and stuff. They will receive information telling them what day, what time they can register. They should be working with their advisors if there's any questions around registration. And as I said, we have someone from the registrar's office here to discuss any specific questions around registration. I do want to note that the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, there are no classes on that day. That is a day to travel so that they're not traveling on Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. But there are no classes, so they will have that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. The Institute will be open on Wednesday, but there'll be no classes happening. December 1st is the leave of absence deadline if they're thinking of taking a leave for spring semester. Okay, for whatever reason, if just thinking they need a break, if it's a medical leave, a personal leave, for personal reasons, that's the deadline to be aware of. Classes will end in early December, and finals will begin on the 9th through the 16th. Okay, nobody should be making travel arrangements without first checking when their final exam schedules their final exams are scheduled. Every year we have students that didn't realize that they should have stayed and not left because their final is on a day that they're supposed to be on a plane. So just make sure that the travel schedule doesn't conflict with their final exam schedule. And if they are graduating, it's the weekend of the 17th, 18th that commencement will occur. Grades are due right after commencement, and then they will be available for students to log in and check their grades. And then we will have break from we'll have break from that point that they leave after their finals, and the first day of the spring semester is January 10th. Okay, so that kind of just walks you through the next few weeks as we head into the final 7 weeks of the semester. And what I also want to just say about this time is that historically, the last 7 weeks are stressful weeks. Okay, there's no getting around that. And we all should just be aware. Students are going to be much busier. They may not have as much time to be checking in with you or being on the phone or other ways of communicating and stuff, or even coming home if they're local. They will get busy. And also the realities of possible grades earned in courses will become more and more real as they walk through some of the exams between now and then. They will begin to realize where that grade may end up at a B range, an A range, a C range. And so that's also what at times may bring some stress. Okay? All of the services, support services, are in place. Everyone realizes what the last few weeks of the term bring for students. So there's plenty of tutoring that will be going on. There's academic coaching. Academic advisors are available. There's the care center for students who are feeling really stressed. There's counseling. There's the dean's office. So I do want to say that as we all move through these final weeks, we are very aware of what some of our students might be feeling and dealing with, and we will support them as best we can at this point. So I will take any questions when we move to the question and answer period. But at this time, do we know if Peter is here?
Yes, I am, John.
Great, terrific. I'm going to turn this over to Peter, and I invited Peter today to come and really talk about kind of what I feel is kind of a hidden treasure here at Tech, and that's our peer coaching program. And I'd like to inform you all more about this. So, Peter?
Awesome, thank you. Hi, my name is Peter Haig. I'm a psychologist with the Counseling Center, and I coordinate our peer coaching program. And so I'm just going to take a few minutes and talk about what this program is. It's a really neat program. It's actually gotten some national attention in past years, and essentially what it is we match up Georgia Tech students who could use a little bit of extra support around a number of different kind of concerns or things that are going on in their lives with students that we've actually trained to provide that support, trained to, in helping, helping skills, listening skills, things like that, training them up to support their fellow Tech students. Our peer coaches actually go through a semester-long, pretty rigorous training that involves role plays and things like that, teaching them some of these skills that allow them to support and help their Georgia Tech students as best they can. And so essentially what happens is students that are interested can fill out a screening form online, which goes to me. I kind of review it and then match them up with a peer coach. And then what often happens is the peer coach and the student will typically meet about once a week or maybe once every other week. It's very flexible. They're able to meet on the weekends if they'd like to, in the evenings, which obviously the Counseling Center can't do, or often can't do, I should say. And so it's a really wonderful program. We can help with things like, we often get students who are adjusting to college and first-year students who are struggling to learn about tech culture and things like that. But coaches can also help with things like relational concerns, academic struggles, grief and loss, general stress, with academic struggles, especially like, how do I keep to a study schedule? What's this whole college thing supposed to be like? And students are often the best resource for that because they've been through it. And our tech students often like meeting with peer coaches because they're meeting with other students who kind of get it, right? Rather than meeting with someone like me, a stuffy psychologist, which is what I always say. And so it's a terrific program, and we're doing what we can to sort of make ourselves known a bit better. And so any students who might be interested can sort of look us up online, use that QR code there to look it up too, and we kind of move from there. So, John, did I kind of cover everything there?
Yeah, the only other thing is maybe say a little bit about somebody on the other side, somebody that would like to become a peer coach to help other students.
Certainly. So yeah, we do our recruiting for new peer coaches in the spring. And so because we train new coaches every fall, we're in the process of training our new cohort right now. And so in the springtime, essentially I start putting out word that, hey, you can come and fill out an application. You need 2 letters of recommendation. And then I review those applications and essentially make our selections. And we typically aim to have somewhere between 6 and 10 new coaches each year. But all that happens in the spring, and people can reach out directly to me if they're interested, which often happens. We often ask faculty and staff to sort of nominate students they feel would be a really good fit. But that all happens in the spring. But the program's really great for students who just need a little extra support, who may not need the support of a professional licensed therapist or counselor, and really would benefit from something kind of more flexible and the opportunity to connect with another student, which I know often new students really struggle with too. So.
And Peter, the only other thing I'll ask is maybe if you could say a little bit about the issue of confidentiality as a student learning about another student's kind of stress or issue that they want to talk
Mhm.
about.
Right. Yeah, so that's a really great question. And obviously, anything that's spoken about in a peer coaching meeting is kept confidential. The only people it's shared with are myself, because I meet with our peer coaches for ongoing group supervision throughout their time as coaches, right? So it's shared with me, obviously, because I supervise their work, and also the other peer coaches when we kind of talk about the different cases and whatnot, and things that come up in our supervision meetings. But outside of that, it's all kept confidential and secure and safe.
Great. And the other question we have is it free?
Yes. No charge, no additional charge. Yep, absolutely free.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter. Now what we'll do is move into our Q&A.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, this is Lacey. We're kind of popping back and forth today. If you have any questions, you can pop them in the Q&A box, which I put in the chat, which is just right there, and we will get to those. I see someone has just posted a question. Will the students be required to return after Thanksgiving break? So last year we did something different last year, and we did ask students to not come back after Thanksgiving break. But this year, I'll let John answer that. But this year we are asking students to return after Thanksgiving break. So I'll let him kind of answer that a little bit more. Or will they remain at home as was done last fall?
No, they should return from break, from Thanksgiving break. We are not on the same schedule as we were last year. There'll be in-person and virtual exams happening. So unless they have all virtual exams, and they know that for sure, but they also have the last few days of attendance within those classes. So my recommendation is that they return to campus after Thanksgiving break. Good question.
Yeah, there's also the Georgia Tech game that's happening that Saturday after Thanksgiving, and I know a lot of students are eager to attend that game, and it's here at Georgia Tech. So there may be some students who definitely want to come back after Thanksgiving and attend that game as well. So that might be something of interest to our new families who don't know about that as well. Any other questions? If you want to put them in the chat, we'll be happy to answer those. We'll wait a few minutes.
Dean Stein, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
If I may, while we're waiting for any additional questions, you talked about how this is a difficult time for students sometimes. How can parents help identify if their student is in need, and how can they connect them to resources on campus, both academic or mental health services?
Well, I mean, I think that what I want to reassure people is that how we find out about students in need comes from many, many different sources. Sometimes it comes from us, family. Sometimes it comes from an instructor who, feels that something's going on with the student based on what the student has shared in an email, in person, stop coming to class. Sometimes it comes from a friend or a fraternity brother, sorority sister, a roommate. And sometimes it comes from the student directly. The student puts in a referral in for themselves to say, I need to talk to somebody. So, the point that really matters most is that somebody's informing us that there's some concern and asking for an intervention with the student to figure out what is going on. That's the most important piece, and that's what we appreciate the most, whether it's a student, him or herself, or others. Okay. Once we meet with the student, then we can figure out what array of support services on the campus can support that student in their needs. Sometimes it's, clinical, and it might be care and counseling, but not all the time. Sometimes it's a referral to the Center for Academic Success and more around tutoring and academic coaching. Sometimes it's a nutritionist on campus. So we really want to think about support broadly in terms of the needs of our students and what's going on. But what we deal with is what's the presenting issue and then go from there. So sometimes a student will come in saying that they're concerned about a class, but in talking to them, you realize that there's really other things going on, and at that point there may be a need to go further in terms of a referral to care to be assessed more. So.
Great. Thanks for that question, Sarah. We've had a few more questions come in. Do academic advisors reach out to students at particular checkpoints in the semester, or interactions are only expected to be initiated by the student? My student claims he is busy, and I don't believe he's initiating certain interactions with their academic advisor.
Yeah. Well, I think you're probably your student is being honest with you at this point. That is not an uncommon thing to hear. Georgia Tech students are very busy. But to answer your question, like with the progress report grades, if a student receives 1 U, an unsatisfactory, the academic advisor will not be reaching out to that student. If a student receives 3 U's, most likely the academic advisor at that point would be reaching out to that student and asking what's going on. Okay, it is not uncommon for a certain percentage of the students to have 1 or maybe 2 U's, again, depending on how many exams and how many graded work has been submitted at that point. But when we have students who have 3 and 4 and 5 U's, there is a significant kind of concern about what is happening with the student and why is it that the student's not being successful in multiple courses. So, as we move into registration, one of the things I will say is that academic advisors get very, very busy, and they may have general hours, they may have sessions, open sessions, where they're generally discussing registration with students. It really varies from college to college and department to department. So they're going to have to check with their department and check with their advisor. But what I will tell you is that the time to do this is now, before they get even busier as the semester moves to the final weeks and we move into registration. Now there is a better chance that an advisor has some time to sit down and talk to a student than 3 weeks from now when everything gets much more busy with registration.
I see Ryan answered this question, but I'll go ahead and read it just for people who watch the recording later. For those who are seeking housing for the spring who are not in housing on campus now, when will the application be open? The website says October. And Ryan answered the housing application actually opened today for spring 2020 residency. So thank you for answering that, Ryan. And then we have another question that asked, can current first-year students who are undergraduates turn in an application for peer coaching in the spring semester? And I know Peter has left the call, but I certainly believe that that is the case, because that would mean they would be second-year students when they were doing the peer coaching training for the fall semester. So I do believe that would be, is that correct, John?
Yeah, so this is a student who wants to be a peer coach.
Right, they would apply in the spring. Yeah.
But key to this, remember what Peter said, is that they would need 2 letters of recommendation. So they should be thinking about who do they know on the campus, and it could be their RA, it could be, a faculty member, it could be their GT 1000 teacher, If they're in a living learning community, it could be the director or assistant director of a living learning community that can write a letter of recommendation. But yes, they would go through the training if they are selected and then would start in that role come the fall.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, we know typically about this time our families are kind of getting in the groove. We are past about a halfway point, and families are feeling like they know a little bit more, their students know a little bit more, so we typically don't get as many questions at this time. So I'm happy to see families feel a little bit better, and hopefully your students are feeling like they have their footing a little bit better. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to our office, parents@gotech.edu, and we're happy to help you with anything that you need. And we are planning for our upcoming events. Be on the lookout for our Sibs Day date, which should be released later this week. And some other information will be coming out soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tyler, did you have an announcement? Our next webinar is next Tuesday, I believe, with tutoring.
Yes, our webinar is next Tuesday. You can see that on our website, parents.gatech.edu. Before we leave, Ryan or Ansley, would you all like to just say anything?
Sure, I can say something, Tyler. So I'm Ryan Green. I'm Senior Director for Georgia Tech Dining. We've seen a lot of changes and improvements from the dining front since the semester began. So the only thing I'll say really is we've opened up a new student feedback system a few weeks ago now called Text and Tell, and we get a lot of feedback every single day at all of our dining locations that are helping us improve on a daily basis. And we've seen a lot of positivity over these last few weeks in terms of changing. So we're seeing that data and know that things are improving. If you have any specific questions regarding dining, feel free to reach out to us at dining.gotech.edu. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hi, my name is Ansley Sharp. I'm the Assistant Registrar for Registration and Customer Relations. And so glad to be with you today. Dean Stein pretty much covered all the key dates that I would have told you. One other deadline that is coming up, though, that I think students often forget they have a choice of is the grade mode change deadline. And this is also on October 30th. We will be accepting these forms throughout the next week, since that is a Saturday, unfortunately. But this is the option for a student to change from a letter grade to pass-fail or from pass-fail to a letter grade. That should be done after a discussion with their advisor. But we find a lot of times students don't know this is an option. So if they feel they are struggling and they think they maybe want to take a course for pass-fail credit, that will still go on their transcript and satisfy degree requirements. It just changes kind of the benchmarks they need to meet in the course, depending on a discussion with their professor and advisor. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. But otherwise, you are welcome to reach out to us, or your student is welcome to at comments@registrar.gotech.edu.
And Ansley, can you also just reassure the parents that with this upcoming, especially the first year parents with the upcoming registration period, that if they don't get the perfect schedule for their student doesn't get the perfect schedule, not to stress? Can you just reassure them with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So as Dean Stein mentioned, Phase 1 registration is going to fall on November 8th, and the schedule of classes for spring is going to be coming out at the end of October. So please just tell your students the best thing they can do right now is review the class offerings for spring, meet with their advisor, and discuss a preferred schedule. Okay, we do stagger registration by time tickets, which is based on hours earned. Okay, so everyone is going to get a chance to register, I promise. Okay, there will be a lot of changes between the opening of registration and the end of registration. So if your student is on a wait list, your student does not get the classes they think they need, that is okay. I don't want your student to panic. There is going to be ample time for that wait list to run through. People change their mind all the time, and our students are no different. So if your student does not have the perfect schedule by the end of Phase 1, that is okay. They need to go ahead and prep for finals. That should be the focus. They're going to have another opportunity to register during Phase 2 when we come back in January. So please tell your student this should not ruin their holidays if they do not get the perfect schedule. There is going to be another round of registration. So it is all about patience and not panicking at the outset. Okay, registration is more like a marathon, not a sprint. It is not going to be perfect the very first week. Okay, so please just remind your students, do the best they can, but then they need to get back and focusing on the end of the term.
Great advice.
Thank you, Ansley. Thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today. Have a great rest of the day. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.